Oh, wow. That was a new one. That was a new one. It was an interesting kind of a bellowing.
Yeah.
Is your voice a little hoarse?
No, it's not hoarse at all. Good morning. I still apparently need more coffee, but yes, I'm good. How was your week?
You know, I've kind of went into it. I don't want to bore everybody with the mold thing going on, but, you know, it continues. So last night I, really got a solid night's sleep for the first time in a long time. And so I'm feeling a little bit like a new person. And I think it was very necessary for our interview today to be on top of our game. But I know that you went to go see Moulin Rouge yesterday, right?
I did. I went and saw Moulin Rouge at the Pantages Theater. It is absolutely probably now my new favorite show. I loved it so much. The performances were incredible. The spectacle and the story, it's just so well done. I think it's got over 71 songs in it because they do all these different medleys of pop songs throughout the whole thing.
I love the medleys.
Yes. And they updated it and it's sexy. It's fun. I actually was sobbing in the second half. Like it was just so, I can't stress it enough. If you're in New York, go see it. If you're in LA in the next few weeks, come see it here. It was so good. Yes, that was very inspiring. I also had to prepare for our interview today with Willam Belli. So we just have to say at the top of this, get your kids out of the room.
Yes, this is, I would say, somewhere between PG-13 and R. Because, we're going to bleep a few words and stuff, but everybody just be kind of prepared that this is a guy, a drag queen, a person that is an entertainer, and at heart is a true comedian. And he is notoriously very unfiltered. So we get very, there's some things that might not be appropriate for the kids in the car. So try to listen to this in your AirPods. But, he's, like we said before, when we were talking before this, he does not sugarcoat anything. So he is who he is, and he was very much put it all out there. And we think that a lot of people are going to get a new perspective.
For sure. I mean, he definitely doesn't give you the status quo at all. I think that,
no.
and it's refreshing at times, and then it's a little shocking at times. But I think that that's why Willam has been so successful and has, some Emmy nominations and been, in movies like A Star Is Born. I just think that's why he has garnered such a reputation for always delivering what the unexpected.
And like I said, I say it throughout this is, his list of the things that he has accomplished, how many projects he's worked on. Like, I just don't even know where he gets the time in the day because he's a singer. He does parody music. He has a YouTube following. He's got all these things going on, and he's slowed down a little bit lately, but even his version of slow is like everybody's version of a hyperspeed. So
yeah, we spoke to him today. He was in Toronto filming a TV show, so he's constantly working. I think I'm going to go ahead and tell them a little bit about Willam Belli.
Tell everybody.
So what he says is, the less you know, the better, but here it goes. After being disqualified from a cross-dresser game show, RuPaul's Drag Race, Willam found success anchoring shows for MTV, Logo, and AOL while appearing as an American Apparel ad girl, Sephora model, and Magnum ice cream lady. He's performed hits from his #1 Billboard charting comedy album on 5 continents, spent a few nights in jail, and enjoys writing in the third person while rewatching old episodes of Nip Tuck he was on. Willam also likes to cry about how he lost both of the Emmys he was nominated for in 2020 for his acting and makeup work on Netflix's Eastsiders. His first book, Suck Less, Where There's a Willam, There's a Way, missed the New York Times bestseller list by less than 100 copies. You might have also seen Willam on YouTube because, who knows, maybe you're one of the 250 million views. And if not, please subscribe. He is the co-founder, co-host of Race Chaser and Hot Goss on the Mom Podcast, or MOM, Mom Podcast Network, which produces 10 LGBTQIA+ podcasts a week. Willam can be found on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Willam, Willam, and in the very small indie film, A Star Is Born. I love how you put that as a star indie film.
Yeah. So him.
Please welcome to the program, Willam Belli. Good morning.
Good morning, Willam.
Good morning.
How are you?
It's good. It's noon in Toronto, though. So
You're in Toronto?
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that. That's super cool. Is that where you're from?
Yeah. No, I'm just doing a TV show up here for a little bit.
Oh, that's really cool.
He's always working.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, you're a freaking busy man. I can tell just from your IMDb page. It's out of control. So
I haven't been on there in years. I wonder what's on it.
You literally have one of the longest IMDb lists of projects like we've ever seen. Like, damn. But according to Wikipedia, Willam, you are an actor, an American drag queen, singer-songwriter, reality television personality, author, YouTuber, podcast host, and you came to prominence as a contestant on the 4th season of RuPaul's Drag Race in 2012. Something we'll get into a little later. But did you always know you wanted to be in show business, and what drove you to get into it?
Yes, I always wanted to be in show business because I saw it as the easiest route to attention. And what drove me to it was every weekend I'd go with my mom to get her hair done in South Philly. And my grandma would be there, and my aunts would be there at the salon. And I would just read stacks of tabloids, the old school ones, the paper ones, like the Globe, the Star, the Sun. And I was like, who are all these people? I could take way better pictures and outfits than these people. And so I just thought tabloids.
Oh, that's what you were going for? Yeah.
Garbage pail liner. This is me.
So that literally drove you to get into it.
Yeah, I didn't have anything else to do after high school. Like, we had no money. I couldn't go to college. I didn't know what I wanted to go to college for. So I was like, let me just be a performer.
But your parents, like, didn't you tell me your dad worked for NASA?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's incredible. And your mom was RN, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were cool. They would like drive me to drag shows and Rocky Horror and stuff when I was a teenager.
So they were pretty like, they were cool with all of it.
Yep, they were the jam. I think that's where the reason I have so much misplaced confidence is because they were always like, you can do whatever you want.
You're amazing.
Go for it. Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. That's always a good thing. So I guess let's get a little bit into who you are as a person and how drag became like such a big part of your life. I think we'd like to know, I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but when you realized that you were gay and when did you know that you were into drag? Like, who were some of your like role models and how did everybody kind of respond to all that?
Sure. I realized I was gay when, I don't know, I was born, I guess. My baby book says I was gay.
For real?
My mother wrote when I was 3 that I was either a ballerina or gay because I walked on my toes. My dad has a gay brother and a gay sister, so like they always knew it was a chance and they hit the mother load.
Concentrated.
Yeah. That's when I knew I was gay. I forget what the other part of the question was.
Oh, just like when did you realize that you wanted to get into drag?
Oh, I realized when I wanted to get into drag when I think I saw when I was a kid, I remember seeing when I was 9, there was gay pride on my birthday in New York, June 30th. And there was like a person walking through the Lincoln Tunnel in white lingerie, like white, like fishnets, white garters, teddy. They were on their way to Pride or something. And they were like this beautiful statuesque black person with, I think, like blonde hair. It wasn't RuPaul, obviously. But like, I was like, what is she doing walking through the Lincoln Tunnel? And then my dad, I think, said something like, well, she's got to get somewhere, I bet. And I was just like, you know what? You're right. She's got somewhere to go. And then we get into the city and I see gay people all over. And I'm like, what is going on? They're like, it's gay pride in the city. And I was like, oh, this is a thing. So like, I was like, these are my people. And then like years later on some Instagram account, it was like some like past LGBT like history thing. I saw the person in the white lingerie in a picture of a pride celebration and I screenshotted it. I was like, oh my God, this person has been seared into my memory for like 30 years and I'm seeing it on paper and it's real or not on paper, but on technology. So like, that's when I kind of knew I wanted to be gay. And my biggest inspirations for like drag right now and back then were like Lady Bunny, Pablo Vittar, Sylvester, a drag queen named Raja. Those were the ones. Kevin Aviance, who is a musician and a drag queen. Those are my random references. RuPaul at some point.
You said in your book you were very open about coming out, and you alluded to that it's ridiculous that others don't come out earlier.
I feel like living your truest experience is like not to be sneered at, but I mean, some people have to stay in the closet for lots of reasons. I don't push my timeline on anybody, but freedom is the best taste in the world. Right. Other than shame, because shame tastes good too.
Depending on what it's flavored with.
But only during, not after.
Yeah,
You got to spit it out.
Exactly.
Oh, God. Well, speaking of shame, listen, you've been very open and unapologetic about, well, most things. But one of those things is that about you, are quote unquote, you called yourself a hooker, and how Pretty Woman was the touchstone in your life when you were younger, between the ages of 17 and 19. But you said in your younger years, you were also a blackmailer and a scammer. What exactly does that mean? And what conditions in your life caused you to go to such extremes?
Oh my God. I was like, if somebody fucked me over or did something to me, I was like, I'm going to get him back. I used to be like V for Vendetta, hardcore. And when I was like a young kid, I was like 12 with AOL chat rooms, unsupervised on the internet. I would like, try to hook up with guys. And I went to hook up with one, and he clearly was not his picture. I was 12, said I was 18. I was a liar mouth and a little scammer, even back then. And
well, I think at that age, a lot of people, I remember being in AOL chat rooms, being like having no idea like what people were really doing in there, and putting age,
we were the first
sex,
generation.
Yeah, what was it? It was like
internet.
You had to put like age, sex, male or
ASL,
female.
yeah.
And I remember being in chat rooms being like, oh yeah, I'm totally 15 when I was 12. Because I think we can all kind of relate to that, at least. I now never thought of it as being a scammer though, but yeah, we were all doing that.
Oh no, the scamming gets worse because like I went to this one hookup, and this guy was clearly not his picture, and I clearly was a 12-year-old. So I was like, I don't like this at all, but like I still somehow performed oral sex on him at 12, which I guess technically is like statutory rape if you
For sure.
look at from his perspective, but like also whatever. So I afterwards sent him a blackmail message. It wasn't like on a ransom note or anything, but like I called his phone. I was like, listen, I don't appreciate you like scamming me into sucking your You're not your picture. I'm 12. I need $300. And he told me I ruined his life. His boss, his wife heard it, and he gave me $289. He said, this is all the money I have. Please leave me alone.
Where did the 11? He just couldn't scrape together the $11.
I don't know. He wasn't on vacation, but he was in town on business because I was in I grew up on like a coast town in Florida, and like I remember going to his hotel, all that. And I just like
at 12, wow.
I was just like not a great person back then at all, and I can laugh about it now because I can't change it. But like, I hope his life wasn't ruined. Like, I hope he found some joy somewhere in people other than 12-year-olds.
Yeah, he probably, I think we should all be a little bit aware that he also was with a 12-year-old, a pedophile. So, we don't feel too sorry for him, I don't think.
But also watch out for scammy 12-year-olds.
Yeah,
They'll get you.
They'll get you. Well, so when you refer to yourself as a scammer and blackmailer, is that basically what you mean? There wasn't like any kind of...
That's one of the incidents.
Yeah. Okay, but you started young. So let's...
So from 17 to 19, though, you were...
That was legit. That was like for money, blowjob or no job.
And you would just do blowjobs. You wouldn't have actual sex with them.
Yeah, most of them.
Yeah, we'll say majority.
I kept a counter. It's going to be in my next book. I have like a whole list.
Like names?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, man, you got a good memory then.
I didn't memorize it. I just wrote everything down because I wanted people to find my body if I ever didn't come back.
That is a really good reason to do that, honestly.
Hooker 101.
Yeah, for sure. So did you have like a little notebook that you kept on you just so that...
It's literally a Word file that's been on every computer that I've had since 1999.
That is impressive. I thought I was doing pretty good by having just the same phone number since I was 15, but to have the same file running list, that's impressive.
That's just the Hooker file.
Okay, so fast forward after that period of your life. You're kind of out of that line of work, if you will. And you start...
Are we ever really, though?
In a way, we're all kind of selling our bodies. But you're starting to make some headway, I guess, in the biz, if you will. You get...
Headway.
Yeah, there we go. You get several parts.
That should be my next book title,
That's
Headway.
what it should be. That is actually really good. I'm going to write that down just for you in case you forget. But you got a bunch of TV roles, and, you played on Nip Tuck, transgender character Cherry Peck. And then you get a request to audition for RuPaul's Drag Race. And we're a big part of season 4. I know because I watched it. And probably one of the funniest ones. I mean, I'd say the funniest one. But we want to ask you this because we know you are a lot less filtered than some other people, but a lot of Drag Race's contestants are kind of evasive about this question. So, and we've dealt with similar issues and questions regarding, say, like we had a model on that Molly O'Connell, who was on America's Next Top Model.
Oh, I know her, the redhead.
Well, she's the blonde.
No, blonde.
But
She was the one who the weave was
they
sewn
gave her
in,
the
and
weave
the
that she
blonde-
was allergic to. And it was like,
oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's my best friend's baby sister.
I love her.
Yeah, she's
Okay.
awesome.
She's great.
You should
Yeah.
listen to the podcast we did with her.
But now the NDA is up, and so she's starting to talk about Tyra.
All those girls are.
Yeah. So she was like ready to get that out. So we were, just kind of wondering whether you thought RuPaul cares or ever really cared about the contestants on the show. And do you think that she particularly cared about you or your actual career trajectory when she did all this?
At one point, I know she did have genuine affection for me because I would see how her, she would come around and walk around different tables in the workroom, and it would be called the walk around. She kind of talked to me and Chad Michaels and Latrice and Sharon at that point differently than everybody else, where she just came around to Kiki. She knew we were going to be on the show for a while. She just covered bases. She wasn't going, well, last week you almost went. She enjoyed her interactions with a few of us. I could definitely tell. Others, it seemed more remote and going through the motions. She would say people's names wrong and not even give a fuck. I can't speak to the testament of how she feels or how she felt then, but it seemed like she enjoyed me. She knew my name in 2009, well before I did the show, when I used to book go-go dancers for a bunch of parties and clubs in LA, and I booked them for World of Wonder for a few years for their Christmas parties and whatever. And she was DJing, and I went up and I told her I loved the song or something. She knew my name. She knew who I was. We had done a movie together called Another Gay Sequel. She was nice to me on that and everything. Our relationship isn't that anymore, but yeah, gratitude is unconditional, and I'm thankful for her presence on this earth.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm glad that she was able to at least give you that launching point, I guess, or platform, if you will. But
yeah, me too.
And I know we're not going to go into this much more, but this is always my question when it comes to reality shows. How real did you feel like it was?
It was a reality show. There were portions of it which were definitely real, but there were other portions where it was fake to the point of not even faking it, where they were we're going to do that all again because this girl's hat fell off. We're wait, that's not real though. That's not how this worked. Or we're going to do this all again because she said the wrong thing and she needs to go the opposite direction with this whole speech. There's certain things where you're you can see the fingerprints later if you watch it back and you were there and you were that didn't happen like that at all. There was a point where I tried to lip sync for a girl on the second episode because I was the team leader. And I got called safe, and that's when you normally go to the back of the stage. But instead, I launched in this whole thing hi, I want to take accountability for this. I'm the team leader, XYZ, XY that. And she didn't even look at me, and her voice just raised a tenor a little bit. And she went, "You're going off script, darling." And I just literally said, "Bye," and I hit it. And the portion that they use in the programming is they call me safe, and then they cut out the next 30 seconds of me talking and her huffing and puffing before she doesn't even let me finish and just cuts me off and says, "You're going off script, darling," and yells it at me. And then all they show is me being called safe and then me saying bye and flip. And it turns into a great edit for me. They made me into this super savvy troll when in reality I was just kind of producing myself and hoping for the best. I wasn't an evil genius. I was a lucky moron. And they played into it because they kicked me off. I fucked a producer, so that was kind of job security. Found out where a lot of the bodies were buried, and it all worked out for me in the end. I will never work with that production company again, but I learned a lot, which, can't put a price on.
Well, did you get any friendships from that? Do you hang out with any of the girls?
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome.
I'm still friends with my story producer, who was a producer on Making the Band and Top Model. So it was the same, rigmarole. I'm really close with Latrice. Still friends with Chad. Dita, I'm really good friends with. The Princess.
Oh, really?
A lot of these girls I still talk to, yeah. And other seasons, too.
So you kind of met other people even throughout I'm sure those other people that were on that season probably went and did the reunion shows and stuff, and then...
Some of them, yeah. Season 4 has the distinction of almost everybody being used from the top 6 for All-Stars since, other than me.
Oh, okay.
And Dita. But Sharon won, Chad won the first All-Stars. Latrice has been on like 3 times. They haven't used Dita yet. I don't know why. They haven't used me. I do know why. Kenya doesn't do drag anymore. Yeah, that's Drag Race.
Well, Willem, after Drag Race, you went on to do so much, and we're not even sure how you had that much time in your day to do all this, but you started making music, you started a
Evil
YouTube
never
career.
sleeps.
That's right. A podcast, and you wrote your book, Where There's a Willem, There's a Way. You even make a perfume. I mean, the list goes on. But in 2018, you landed the role as Emerald in A Star Is Born alongside Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience and what it was like working with such amazing talent, and what were they like on a personal level?
I think I landed the role in because I remember we filmed it in May of 2017.
Right.
I landed the part, and I think I auditioned in January, and then there was another like thing in February or March, and then I booked it, and I was doing all my wardrobe stuff, and then they called me the morning of, I was at Tom Daly's wedding in England, and the night before we had a rehearsal dinner, and I was talking to this producer that had worked with Bradley Cooper on other stuff. His name's Bruce. He's really cool. And he's like, oh, I did Silver Linings with Bradley. Tell him I said hi. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, sure. Great opener. And then the next morning I wake up to a text that says, terrible, terrible news. All your scenes have been cut. I'm like, what? Huh? I can't go to this wedding and be happy. I have to go to the wedding because it's my friend's. It's a destination wedding. So I go down. The first person I see is this producer, Bruce. He's like, hey, how's your morning? I was like, terrible. Tell your friend Bradley I should be in his movie. Like, all my scenes gone. Like, to go from like being in a Lady Gaga movie in your head as a drag queen to being in a no movie.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
So then I get home 3 days later, and they're like, they check in your avail. They want to see if you're available. And I'm like, sure. What else am I doing? So Gaga apparently fought for the drag queens to be in. She was just going to be a waitress in the movie. That all changed. We got back in. We get to the set. Shangela and I were like doing our thing. Once we got there, they said, throw the script out. We're like, do we need to hit these lines at all for like a beat thing? Like this info? And they're like, no, just do what you do in a dressing room. Bradley's saying this. So I'm like, okay, we can do this. All you have to do is tell me and Shangela once, and we will take off on the improv train. And if you can get on and catch up, cool. But if you can't, it's all us. So there were like 5 other drag queens, and me and Shangela kind of like railroaded and just took over. And then I did the thing with the boobs, and he signed it. And that was just the comedy gods smiling on me, because I didn't know if a Sharpie would wipe off fake tits, but it did. And They were all surprised, and they liked it. And then based on that, they wrote the second scene where I give them the guitar or whatever. And that turned out really well. And they all liked my jokes. Gaga came up behind me and told me to switch 2 jokes around. That's how Bradley wanted it. And it was just a really cool set. Like, somebody was rubbing my shoulders at one point, and I turn around and it's Gaga, and I'm like, girl, watch my wig. And everybody was great. I can't say enough nice stuff about Gaga, Bradley. I mean, I step on my lips to say nice things about Dave Chappelle right now, but like, Dave was cool. Eddie Griffin was cool. Sam Elliott. Everybody was rad. It was the best experience I've ever had on a set in my life. Other than Nip Tuck. Nip Tuck was great too.
Did you feel like a little bit starstruck with Gaga or anybody? They all just kind of made it feel relaxed.
I mean, they're literally just people. And if you just remember that, if you ever get nervous or feel like butterflies around someone, you just have to remember they're just a person too. And if they act like they're not a person with you, or they're above it all, you realize, okay, maybe I don't need to be so worried about this person's approval or like proxy, because like they forgot who they were in the first place.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And that's like my one biggest RuPaul thing, was like when we were told not to look her in the eye or instigate conversation, but she could talk to us, and we were like, wait, what? Huh? She's a person. She's a drag queen. We're all drag queens. Like, LCD, lowest common denominator, like, did she forget? Like, that was confounding to me, because like drag is like a social thing. Like usually drag queens, they do what they do because they like making people happy, or they like to make them think. If you're Sasha Velour or something, you know, like some people do it for like high art. And I get that. That's not me. I do it to make people happy, to make people have a good time. And when you do something that is the antithesis of making someone have a good time, which is like if someone introduces themselves and you look them up and down, refuse to shake their hand, and like refuse to acknowledge them, like that, I just don't understand all the time. But it's not my job to try to understand what makes other people tick anymore. And I've stopped trying to do that.
And I mean, I'm sure RuPaul Charles has worn the armor, because she was the drag queen forever. Like she was the poster child forever. And maybe going through all that in the 80s, 90s, it was tough.
Yeah.
And maybe she just was like, I don't need any more friends.
I'm not here to talk about anybody's experience other than my own, but I do know a lot of people that were around her in Wigstock in the 80s. I read her book, which talks about her stealing an air conditioner from Lady Bunny and her friends. Like anybody that steals an air conditioner in the summer, I don't trust them.
That is rude.
And then all the people around her in the 80s and 90s were always, whenever they see me, the RuPaul subject always comes up because they're like, I love what you do and how you gave it to them and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm past that. That was a decade ago, but like, I'll listen to your stories. But none of them particularly remember RuPaul as like the happiest creature in the room from the stories I've heard. They're like, she was always kind of a bitch and always like wanted to be. I'm done talking about her.
Okay. Yeah.
I need to stop talking about her because I will say something that I'll regret. I'm so grateful for her being put on this earth when she was and for everything that happened because, without her footprints, I wouldn't have a trail to follow, kind of, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But that's where the paths diverge in the woods, honey.
Yeah. Well, I mean, eventually you got to just go let people be who they are. I mean, there's, only so much pontificating you can do on it, or it's just like, then it becomes your problem. So this podcast, as I'm sure Todd has told you, is centered around trauma. So for better or worse, we're going to dive into some of that. I mean, you've been pretty open about battling eating disorders since you were, quote unquote, a fat kid. What eating disorders have you battled? And do you feel like you've overcome any issues with that to this day?
Yeah, I have overcome issues. I keep a food journal and that really helps me. Like, because if I look at my food journal, I'm like, you've eaten your whole house today. Stop it. Put it down. I have
So binging is...
Yeah, I have the gut of a yellow lab. Like I won't stop until I'm on my side, can't breathe, food like waiting in my esophagus to process because my stomach is so full. My parents said that when I was a toddler, I would eat until I threw up. I love food. Food is so good.
I mean, food is really good.
Yes, so that's my problem. I have like no shut off valve. I used to binge. I play a game called Chew and Spit where I eat over a trash can and shoot something up and then spit it out. I used to do that mostly with dairy stuff because I can't eat dairy and I'd be like, oh, grilled cheese.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, if you looked at it from an outside perspective, you'd be like, look at anorexic over there. So I never had the intent purpose of like eating to throw up, but like it's happened. I didn't want to ruin my teeth, so I stopped that. But what other eating disorders? I used to work out a lot. I used to like count my calories like hardcore.
Yeah.
Before Drag Race. I told myself every time I like wanted to eat, I would say there will be other opportunities to eat because I knew on Drag Race it was one of the biggest times I had to be on TV. I wanted to look like a California archetype. I wanted to be tan, blonde, tits and teeth and nostrils, and that's it. And I like weaponized my body. I was like an 8-pack. I intimidated the hell out of the other girls. Just, it was what I wanted to do, and I did it. And there aren't many things you can control in your life, so when you know that you can control the one thing, which is your body and how you look, you laser focus on it. So all I ate was like turkey bacon, spinach, egg whites, Adderall, and watermelon. That was my Drag Race diet.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was in college, girls, and I'm guilty of it too, would have like those whiteboards up to like motivational quotes. It would say like, being skinny tastes better than any food that you could eat. Mm-hmm. The motivational quotes would basically be like, don't eat, you fat.
Nothing tastes as good as skinny.
Yeah. Like basically just like Motivation Monday, nothing tastes as good as skinny. So I think there's a lot of pressure there. Do you feel like, like you said that you think you've overcome issues with it, but do you feel like it's something that you have control over now?
Yeah, because I don't weigh myself anymore. I don't like determine how I'm going to feel about myself that day, like by what a number says on the floor. I'm in better shape now than what I am. I probably weigh like 25 pounds more than I did on Drag Race.
But with muscle?
Maybe, yeah, hopefully.
Let's just say that. Yeah, no. But I mean, like I've seen a lot of your pictures.
It's all in my ass.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You're always posting your workout videos from your home gym outside. I mean, you're always doing squats and you're working out a lot. I want to move forward to this other thing. You said that you love to, quote, go after dick that doesn't want you, which is essentially going after people that are emotionally unavailable to you. So why do you think that is? And does a part of you feel like that you can like, I don't know.
Like, where do you think that comes from? Do you think that that's like you're kind of trying to prove you aren't that little fat kid anymore, or is the same kind of control?
Yes. Oh my God. That's exactly where it was going. I used men for validation because I didn't get attention when I was a kid unless I was funny. Like nobody cared about my looks. So I think I was definitely like, you know, the unhealthiest story in the world, using men for validation. And then if they don't want you, you want it even more. You're like, oh, that one, I need that one. That one that doesn't like me. That one that doesn't text me back except at like 1:30.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And did you ever feel like you kind of needed like this, you had this desire to like fix someone, like you knew it was wrong?
I'm a Cancer. We love to fix.
Yeah.
We love to fix. But I think that's just because we like being in people's business. How can we help? What can we do? How can we ingratiate ourselves to you so you throw us a morsel of attention? And then we can use that to get by for the next couple of weeks until you do it again. And then that it's the endless cycle sometimes. I have to block some numbers because I'm like, they're not good for me.
Yeah.
They gave me chlamydia twice.
So it's not even emotional at this point. This is just physical assault on their part. So
no, it's my fault because I'm letting them. And I only control what I do. So I figured that out. And then I'm better at it now.
you recognize that it was for validation.
Oh, yeah, completely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Completely.
I can relate to that in some ways.
Completely.
So I guess if you were to kind of slow down and actually,
have.
okay.
The quarantine did that for me.
Okay. Well, there's a silver lining of quarantine. We're always trying to find it. But, you know, if you're going to find your, like that emotionally available person, what are the top 3 things that you would truly need from a partner?
Oh, shit. Taller than me?
That's actually one of mine too. So
What else? Okay, taller than me. Is this like
Into
what's
snacks?
going on in their brain?
yeah,
Yes.
more mental.
More like someone emotionally, like what would you truly need from them as a partner?
Emotionally, I just need Jason Momoa
Oh my God.
and Idris Elba.
Emotionally, you just need.
I am
That's what
going
I
to
need
write that
emotionally.
on my mirror today because that is how I feel all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think that there's any parts of Jason Momoa other than physically that emotionally you connect with?
Yeah, you know what? He seemed like a nice guy. I saw him on La Cienega once in a car with my roommate, and I was like, he pulled up beside us, or we were on the sidewalk, and I was like, that looks like Jason Momoa. And then I was like, Aquaman? And he turns and he gave like this, like the hook'em horns, and I was like, ah! And me and my best friend looked at each other and squealed like 14-year-old girls. He was nice to people, and he didn't need to be. Like when you see someone kind of through a window and then they roll the window down and like give a head nod and wave, you're like, wow, okay, he's badass, he's cool. So I would like somebody with Jason Momoa's heart.
Oh, I like that. And then all the
Yeah.
rest of it.
When you're kind to people and you don't need to be, I feel like it's my default. I'm always nice to people at first.
You're very gracious.
You make me sound like I'm a lunch host. Oh, gracious, yes. Try to describe them
know.
without using the word gracious.
I know when we were doing the pre-interview, I was like, so when you were an escort, he was like, stop, hooker, kid. But listen, you've told me, we were speaking earlier, and you said that you're very good at like compartmentalizing. However, you mononymously go by Willam both in and out of drag. So I think, how do I say this, Laura?
Oh, well,
How do
I mean,
ask
like,
this question?
because this is more so a question.
You think you're too good for a last name, bitch? Is that what it is?
No, man.
Willam Belli.
That didn't even come to me, but I'll ask you that later. But, you know, you go by Willam both in and out of drag, and you've even said in your book, which I told you I read, that you are the same person whether in drag or not. And I think we're all very familiar with the entertainer Willam. So like say Britney Spears on stage is Britney Spears, the entertainer, and then Britney Spears at home. So who is Willam at home? And do you see any differences between the entertainer and so like not drag, but just in general, the entertainer versus the guy that's just hanging?
Yeah, I don't really see any difference. My friends do. They say I'm louder in a wig. But I think like stuff that I don't really talk about much in drag wouldn't really have a place in drag because drag, like you keep it light, you keep it shallow kind of thing. Like no one's talking about their feelings at a club. So like this is still like in there, like this part of me when I'm in drag, but it's not like necessarily right at the surface because, you know, time and a place. But I think I'm the same. My friends will say differently. But there's always that kernel of me there that's like sardonic and a little, I don't know, like I always got something to say kind of thing. she throws in a kick at the end. There's always a little kick in there for sure. And the reason I only use one name is because SAG said no to my drag name when I tried to register it when I was 17. And everybody says my last name wrong and my first name wrong for all that matters. So I just figured one name was easier. So that's why that came about.
Because it does seem kind of like unusual for people to go by the same name on and off.
If you look at all the really good ones, they don't have to change them. RuPaul, Boy George, Charles Bush, Sylvester, like
You're
a lot of
right.
my idols. So I was always like, Willam's a cool enough name where I can do what I want with it.
Willam is
So
a cool
I did.
name, I will say. That's
Thanks.
unique, and I like it a lot. So,
Most people haven't met another one.
yeah, well, when I was searching stuff, the only other thing was some movie called Willam is coming out, and I was like, well, it made things a lot easier because I just say Willam the man. Well, I think that it's good that you don't have to, Tata said that you can compartmentalize really well, but it's kind of nice, I think. Do you feel like it's nice that you don't have to like switch between this on stage person to when you're out, even just like in a wig, meeting people? Like I remember in the book, you just mentioned that how some people would be exhausted because they're like, I have to keep playing this character and I just want to like.
You really read it.
I
Jinx
really
said
did
that
read
to
it.
me. Jinx literally said, I'm just so exhausted. I have to be this character all the time. Jinx and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, that's on you, bitch. But she's fine. She just won like $250,000 on TV. So good for her.
Oh,
She's allowed to take a nap.
yeah, for sure. She should take a nap.
Yeah. Go to sleep, bitch.
Yeah, go
She's
to
not
sleep.
listening.
I know, maybe she will, hopefully.
Maybe. She does listen to a lot of podcasts. I produced one of her podcasts. I forget
All
that.
right, so hold that over her head and make her listen to it.
Willam, you've mentioned that you struggled to get out of your own head in regards to competition. Can you explain what that means a little more and how Burning Man, and explain what Burning Man is for people who actually don't live out here or know what that is, how it helped you overcome that?
Sure. I used to be very competitive with others in my field and create false narratives in my head about like, oh, she got this job. You're not going to get this. They don't like you. FY. All that kind of stuff. It was only encouraged by a former manager who wasn't that great. Like I would see emails where like he would tell people I wasn't available when I was. He would send other girls instead of me to jobs that requested me. And then the promoters would contact me and I'd see it. And I don't know what was going on, but it wasn't good for me or my self-esteem. I'm no longer with that manager. And I was in a girl group. And when we broke up, this was like 2014, I think, or 2015, he told me nobody wanted me and I wouldn't work without the other girls. And that was like damaging to me because I was like, what do you mean I won't work? I wrote these songs. I'm always going to work. No, someone's always going to want me. And I think to prove a point, I didn't work much for a month. And then he started giving me gigs back when he realized I wasn't going to say yes to any more girl group gigs. But he held it over my head that like I wasn't going to work. And it kind of damaged me, my self-confidence, not having my two best friends with me on stage. So I went to Burning Man. I like wrote stuff on a paper. I burned it all up. I tried to like have like the ethos of an artist and like use Burning Man as like an arts festival and not just a place to do drugs, like a place to reconnect like spiritually with like your path in life and like not necessarily like pray to God or whatever, but like believe that there's like a higher power out there or something instead of just a spinning rock in the middle of whatever we're in. So like I kind of like gave in and said, I'm going to be a good person. I'm going to stop scamming. Because like I was still doing little schemes and scams and things back like in like 2014, and it's like stuff that I'm not proud of and like I wouldn't be doing today. And like I'm really glad that I offered it up and gave it up, and I feel like within a year or so of me doing all that at Burning Man, like everything in my life fell into place, and like I figured out what I was doing, my purpose on earth, the thing that I'll like wish on a star every night too. And like my mantra, all that stuff, like my Namyo Renge Kyo, like that type of thing.
Your purpose in life.
Not my purpose, because I don't know if I know my purpose yet, but like I kind of saw like a path in the distance illuminated, and I'm like, that's the one I'm going to take. And I'm going to take that one, and I'm going to be happy, and I'm not going to like, chase like straw men in the wind anymore.
Something that people don't know about you is that you really, I think one day you've said you're going to be a father. You want children.
I mean, there's kids all over this floor.
Potential. Yeah. A lot of potential.
Yeah. If that happens, it happens. And I hope it will. I've tried a couple times. I did IVF. I did 3 rounds of IVF in 2019 and 2020, and that it didn't work out. But I learned a lot. I became better friends with the girl that was going to be the baby mama, and I tried with an ex for a while. And like,
Well, was that hard for it to not take?
yeah, but like as hard as it was for me, I can't imagine how hard it was for the mother, because women have more emotions readily available and present than like I'll ever have.
Yeah. But did it feel like you were, maybe it was, so this was post Burning Man?
Mm-hmm.
So did you feel kind of like,
one of them was, yeah.
kind of feel like you don't have to go through the whole timeline of everything. I was just wondering if that idea of like, I know I see the path, I'm not focusing on like douchebag that said I wouldn't work outside of these girls, which is obviously the wrong call on his part, but that you felt like the confidence to like want to be a father, like to actually.
No. I just like kids, and it's always felt like something natural that I was going to do. Like if I go into a room and there's a kid or an animal, like they're usually my best friend. Yeah. So that's it. I'd say.
I think there's something even deeper where you maybe want to give a child, protect their innocence a little more, because your innocence.
Never thought of that.
I mean, well, whether you want to acknowledge it, 12 years old.
Oh, you should have seen what I was doing at 9, honey.
Well, that
like,
goes
I
to
was
the point even more.
Precocious.
Yeah.
Like I got emancipated when I was 16, and I think my parents were probably happy because they're like, we don't know what to do with him. He's bigger than this town can take. And I get where that sentiment comes from, but I just like kids, I think. And
That's great.
I have thought of adopting, and a quick Google search of me would make any adoption or fostering application go right in the trash. So I won't ever get approved for that. So I've thought of that, but not in the cards.
But knowing you personally, I know you would be an amazing father. Honestly,
You want me to call
truly.
you daddy?
I can't with you. I'm done. Done giving Willam compliments, everybody. This is podcast is over.
Well, just to pivot a little bit. Just to pivot
Stop.
a little. So you're obviously someone who has accomplished a lot. And like, I really can't keep, if y'all go to like his, and you said you haven't even looked at this, like this is like pages on IMDb of just how many things that you've been in. So you've obviously accomplished a lot. And when I read the book or, listened to the book, Suck Less, you kept kind of referring to yourself as just gamous and not famous. And I think since then, I think we can objectively say that you are not just gamous, you are famous. And so I want to know, like, what does fame mean to you and how has it affected you? And you've kind of referred to it as being in the mist. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, there's a book that I'm trying to read that I haven't read yet, but Justine Bateman from Family Ties wrote about it, and she refers to fame as like a mist, I think, kind of like floats around you, and you don't really know that you're in it till you're in it, and then like you can't always see where you're going because your judgment is clouded by it or whatever. I haven't read the book clearly, but it sounds like some interesting points in there.
Once you get to it, I'm sure it'll resonate very well.
Yeah, so I don't really know what it is, but I think my IMDb being that long is just a testament to me not listening to all the no's.
Yeah.
And like not being, because technically my last real job was trying to get a job at Starbucks in 2002, and they wouldn't hire me after 2 interviews. They wanted a third interview, and I was like, a third interview?
This is not
to pour coffee? I don't even like coffee. And that's a mistake. You should not say, I don't even like coffee on a Starbucks interview call when you're like trying to rearrange your third interview, because I had a call back for something, which ended up being my first like speaking role on TV on a cop show called The District. So like I made the right choice, but like all that is a bunch of not listening to the no's of every no that you've gotten.
Yeah, well, but I mean, like, you keep referring to like your like Starbucks was your last real job.
It
was,
like,
but these are all real jobs.
It wasn't. They wouldn't even hire me.
Well, and
it
I
wasn't
don't
even a real
know
job.
if
It was a potential real job.
I'm not even sure if you can differentiate that from, say, they're all jobs. Everything you went on to do with jobs. It just wasn't doing something stupid with coffee. So. Suck it, Starbucks. Do you feel like fame has affected you in any way? Like as far as how you're able to go out, like to even just be out in public? Do people like recognize you outside of drag? And do you feel like you're more like Jason Momoa when you interact with people, or more like, I don't know who to reference, RuPaul maybe?
I don't feel like I'm like RuPaul at all in that sense, but I see it, I acknowledge it, and I know that like when people see me, they usually get happy. So I try to reflect that back to them and give them like a good story to tell later.
Yeah.
Like he was nice, he wasn't an asshole. He swallowed. He gave me a sticker.
So it doesn't get tiring, though, to you?
No, like, and anybody that acts like fame is laborious or like, oh my God, too many people want to take my picture. Too many people want my attention. I get it when it's like the Britney Spears paparazzi.
Yeah.
People stepping on Rihanna's foot type of, that might be a lot. But the modicum, the thimbleful of fame that I got, it's never a problem. It's never unmanageable. It's always just happy people to see me. And like, I always remember, like, I've never been at a point where I've been unhappy that somebody recognized me, ever. It's never been like, oh, fuck, I look raggedy, or I don't want to talk to this person. It's never been that, because every time someone does it, you just have to remind yourself, this is exactly what you wanted. Reading all these fucking tabloids in the salon when you were 5 years old, this is what you wanted. Like, congratulations, you've made it. You know, so like, I'm very happy with what the universe has given me. And I feel like I've already made it, and everything past here is just gravy at this point. Like, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and saying yes to things and more new things. I'm trying to buy an ice cream truck.
Oh, tell me about that. What
I know,
what
to really
prompted
enforce the
you to
eating
do
disorders.
that?
I'm going to park myself under the soft serve machine and not come out till fucking spring.
So it's more work for you than to actually sell
No,
ice cream.
I think it'll be great in Palm Springs, where I have a place like to go around to gay pool parties and try to make bottoms eat dairy.
Especially since you have a dairy.
And ruin everybody's pool. No, I'll have dairy-free options. And I used to be a Magnum girl for that Magnum ice cream company.
Oh, okay.
I went to Cannes and did like one of their commercials, and like, it was a great commercial. And like, they sent me a little Magnum cart for my gigs to like wheel up and down the line and give people ice cream. And I was like, I like this. And so I want to be an ice cream lady.
It's kind of like your desire to just make people happy in general. Just, you know.
Who doesn't like ice cream? And I'll sell poppers too, probably.
Yeah,
So that'll
well,
be nice.
some people need those. You reference in your book too that you really wanted at one point to be a clown, and you're like, if it wasn't so,
I am.
Yeah, well, but not in the sense that you're wearing like a squeaky nose and.
Not every clown wears that, but I do consider myself a clown, to the point where somebody asked me what I did a couple days ago. We were in a room full of people, and some of the people knew I was a drag queen, and this person obviously didn't know. He's like, well, what do you do? Have you done drag before? Because we were talking about a drag thing. And the room was. And I was like, oh. I told him I was a prostitute turned clown. He's like, oh, cool. How's that going? And I was like, great.
So you didn't even really answer the question, but you did in your own way.
I answered.
Yeah. He just, took it for what it was, probably, instead of.
But when I answered that, it was a flippant answer, and the people way more famous than me in the room laughed because they knew I was a drag queen. And it was kind of for effect, but it was true too. Like, there's a grain of truth in it.
For sure.
Do you feel like you've healed from the quote unquote trauma that you've experienced in your life, whether it was eating disorders, getting out of your own head completely, or do you think that there's still work to be done on that front?
Well, I picked the scab. I'm not chewing it, at least.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think I'm good. Yeah, I recognize my shortcomings and my flaws, and I'm not afraid of them, and I try to be better.
So you feel you're pretty honest with yourself?
Oh, yeah. I can't lie to myself. I'm too forgetful. I won't remember.
It's so true. I love that too.
Yeah, like affirmations I say every morning in the mirror, just wake up and lie to myself, and maybe they'll come true one day. Like, I'm trying to be well balanced and like do all that stuff. Thank my feet after my gigs and the universe that like it held me up and got me on stage.
Living your dream out right now.
Definitely.
And despite all it seems like too that you just have an incredible amount of, I'd say, like kind of adversity, and like you can overcome adversity very well. And I don't know if maybe some of that is just personally like that you have that motivation, or if some of that is, I think maybe you were a little bit more self-aware than a lot of people at an early age.
I think
overall.
it accounts for a lot of things. The self-awareness, the white privilege, because I definitely benefited from that, unfortunately, and luck, being in the right spot at the right time. It's a lot of that, like just, trying to work every connection that you have.
Seems like you're kind of one of those people that you handle it as they come, and you've never really, I don't know, like lied to yourself from the beginning. You were aware of what you were doing when you were 12 and scamming that guy.
Well, 12-year-old me would be very proud of myself. He would probably, if 12-year-old me met 40-year-old me, he'd probably say, work. And then he would probably try to blow me and scam me for money. And then he'd be like, can I get tickets to your show?
Yes.
I think 12-year-old me would be very happy with what has become of 40-year-old me.
That's awesome.
For sure.
Yeah, you definitely evolved, for sure.
Have I?
Yes. Well, let's hope.
Leave them guessing. Well,
Tune in next week.
Yeah, exactly. So we do know you're very passionate about certain organizations, some of them being, GLAAD and LGBTQ Rimberg Theater. Can you tell us just a little bit about those and like why they matter so much to you and what you want everybody to hear about them?
Yeah, the Renberg Theater is part of the LGBTQIA Center, which is, I learned a lot about philanthropy through watching Ari Getty, and like she puts her money where her mouth is with GLAAD and with the Gay and Lesbian Center, and like helping people have safe spaces when they have no other place to go, because the rate of homelessness and or houselessness is among LGBTQIA teens is like disproportionate to everybody else, and the suicide rate and all that stuff is a lot higher. So I try to like anything I could do to raise money for these centers. I've been doing the mismatch game at the Renberg for over a decade, which is basically the Snatch Game from Drag Race live on stage with actual funny comedians like Jackie Beat and Tony Tripoli and so many funny people, Sam Pancake, Tom Lenk. So I get to be a part of that and raise money for them. I've been doing that for years. So if you got any coins, send them that way. For the Girls, which is trans housing for people in New York that don't have a spot to stay. Yeah, just, if your platform's big and you can use it to yell about stuff that needs attention, why not do it, right? So that's what I do.
Yeah, that's what we want to give everybody that comes on here an opportunity to spread that word. So, we'll put all the links to those things in the show notes. And if you have any other like causes that you want us to put links in the show notes for, we just want to get it out there that, that people like you and other high status figures that we're all trying to just help each other.
Some of us, yeah, a lot of us.
Yeah, some of us. So the good eggs. And so you're a good egg. And I know that you want to help these people go through things that, you probably experienced yourself and or just know that you or didn't because you had a certain level of privilege. So we want to, get the word out. So we'll put all the links to that for everybody to go check out those things. And
cool. My favorite cause is me too. So like, don't forget my podcast links. Race Chaser and Hot Goss.
Oh, yes. Oh, those will all be on there
twice
as well.
a week.
Yes.
All that good
of
stuff.
Of course.
Give to the cause. Yes. Don't worry. That'll be first because you got to take care of yourself. Apply your own oxygen mask first. So how else are you going to help everybody else?
We do have a sort of a tradition on the show, as sort of a palate cleanser after talking about so much heavy stuff. So the final question, and it's a question of the day. Who would you want to play you in the movie of your life?
Who would I want to play me
other than yourself
in the movie of my life? Ooh, shit. I don't know, because like I'm wondering if it'll be like me now or me then.
Well, you could, it'd be the continuous thing, but you could pick somebody to play earlier and then maybe somebody
I've never
to play
thought
later.
of that. I've always thought who I would play because I do look like some historical figures. I kind of look like Robert Plant. I look like Avicii. I look like a guy named Jabriath, who was like the first gay guy signed to a major record label as a gay guy. He died, but like we all kind of look alike. So I've thought of myself playing other people, but I've never thought of who would play me. If we're going with colorblind casting, Rihanna.
Okay.
I identify with her don't give a fuckness and her essence. So yeah, maybe Rihanna.
Amazing.
Rihanna.
I love that
I
answer.
didn't say her name right. Rihanna.
Is that really how you're
Rihanna,
supposed to
yeah.
say it? And I've been saying it wrong this whole time.
I saw an interview where somebody was like, "Why do you let people say it wrong?" She's like, they say it different, blah blah blah. But RuPaul says it right, and that's where I learned to say it, Rihanna. And I did a music video with her too, and she didn't even correct me. I remember calling her Rihanna. But it might be like girls like Tara, Tara.
I don't feel as bad that I've been going around saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cara.
Speaking of music videos, I remember I jumped out of my seat when I saw that you did a video with Little Mix.
Oh, you like them? They're great, aren't they?
Oh my God. You and y'all were great in the video. I love that song too.
Yeah. It's been really nice being friends with those girls. Jade, especially, is really cool. She's my drag dog.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. Yes, she is.
Well, we can't thank you enough. Like, honestly,
yeah, this stuff's important to talk
We
about.
appreciate you being so vulnerable
so
and open with us.
People have something to talk about on Reddit later about me too.
Yeah, no, of course. It'll get into the tabloids. It'll all be fine. One can hope what's manifested now. Let's go to Burning Man and throw it into the fire, and then it'll definitely happen.
Can't recommend it more. It's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. We'll definitely have some links to Burning Man because I don't think we fully explained to everybody what that was.
If you're intrigued, check into it.
It's an experience. It's an
arts
arts
festival. It takes a
festival.
lot of work to get there and do it right, and it'll make you radically self-reliant in the future.
I love that.
Awesome.
That's a really good phrase. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with us. This was a blast, and I can't wait to see what's next.
Lunch, I think.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, Willam, have a great day.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Okay, Todd, how do you think that went?
I think it went great. I think knowing Willam got since, I think, 2013.
Yeah, you're telling me that that's a long period of time.
Yeah, we're pushing a decade here. And, we met years ago. I was bartending at the Laurie Beachman Theater in New York City in Times Square. And the night before, Joan Rivers had just done her set. And then the next day, he was in a girl group at the time, and they came to do one of their shows. And we just started talking at the bar. We developed a friendship. And, the person that he was then, he was on, it was right after Drag Race, and he was on a full, put his foot on the gas and just went.
Pedal to the metal.
He was going. And then now to see him at 40, he's still going pretty friggin' fast. But he has, I think he mentioned in the podcast that he has slowed down. For him, he has slowed down. But yeah, how do you feel it went?
I feel like it went really well. It was almost surprising. For those of you out there, we'll obviously be posting pictures of Willam, but we didn't really get into the ins and outs of his grand personality because, if you just watch a clip of him in anything, he's a presence. And I felt like in the interview, he was just a very relaxed and kind of not putting on, he was definitely I was just excited to talk to him in a way that wasn't a bunch of jokes to evade questions and stuff like that, which, is nice to hear sometimes. You kind of just expect that people that perform on that level to be performing. And I felt like he was really honest
in this
interview. Yeah.
I think one of the main things that we both learned, we were talking right after the interview, is that, he really does want to make people happy.
Yeah. It just seems like that is a huge driver. And whether that's tied into the validation thing that he mentioned himself, that he agreed that was kind of the reason why he's sought out, why he was a hooker for a period of time and all of that. And I think it's tied in a little bit of a way, but I think he also is just that's what gives him life, is to just make people happy. And he doesn't really have, other than to be on a tabloid, he doesn't really have much of an agenda when it comes to it. So it's and how much he talked about respecting other famous people that are gracious and that are, nice to their fans and don't just see it as a pain. That he's clearly very grateful for everything that he's been given.
I think Willam lives in gratitude, whether he wants to admit it or not.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's parts, that he's I know he feels this way. It's just he doesn't have the vocabulary, or he doesn't want to frame it that way. But it's no, you are, because I made a point to say something about in the book. He's I'm not famous, I'm gamous. And I'm okay, now with an IMDb list that is literally 5 printed pages, you can't just say you're not famous anymore. So he definitely, and something you pointed out when we were talking is that the Willam you knew then is very different from the Willam that you know now. And that he is very self-aware. And that I think at the end of the day, though, what really drives him is making people happy, making people, with all of his causes that he supports, helping other trans people and addressing issues that are really important. Because that is a major part. I've worked a lot with 180 Place, which is a homeless, it's not a shelter so much as a rehabilitation center in Charleston. And there is a disproportionate amount of people that are gay that have, just generally are people that are discriminated against and looked down, that they end up being more disproportionately homeless, and that I really respect him for
sure
doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and one of the things that I do appreciate about Willam is that he's probably going to kill me for saying this, but he is actually one of the sweetest humans on the planet.
Yeah.
He'll give you the shirt off his back. He'll, if you're starving, he'll show up with In-N-Out, not asked, stuff like that. He's just a good guy. And one thing I also appreciate about him is that I think his agenda is still to challenge the status quo or what people that are rooted in religion or rooted in whatever, that he likes to challenge their beliefs by being salacious and by being somewhat unfiltered, shocking, provocative with his verbiage, with his whole stature. But, making it in Hollywood is really, really, really hard. And the fact that he's carved out a niche for himself in this town and, to be in such a blockbuster film as A Star Is Born really, really shows his perseverance. And I really respect him for that.
Yeah, I think in general, too, that he's clearly somebody who, whether it was, and he acknowledged himself, there's some things he's not proud of, but was gonna do whatever he needed to do to get where he wanted to be. And he is very grateful for that. It's not like most people that do that and then they're just like, I worked so hard, I got here, I deserve everything. Like the fact that he was like, you don't understand, Jason Momoa, is just such a nice person. Like he gave me the the hand signal, and it's like, well, that's awesome. But also you are the same kind of person. Right. And that he has not lost sight of that. And even when it comes to RuPaul, and I'll be honest, a lot of his other interviews that he's done and things that I've heard him say, he was very kind on this show to RuPaul.
Yes.
And I think a part of that is that he's also realizing that that was a starting point for him in some ways. And it did give him that platform.
And he acknowledged that, RuPaul was a trailblazer for all these queens. I mean, if she hadn't have been so indignant because RuPaul said she always knew exactly what she was going to do. And so I feel like Willam, whether he wants to admit or not, they share that same. Yeah. Willam always knew exactly what he was going to do. And he knew exactly how he was going to get there. So I don't know. He is, like you said, unapologetically himself, which is refreshing at times, but he definitely makes you think. I never leave a conversation with Willam without going, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah. I mean, even when I was listening to his book, which I will say is for everybody out there, definitely for ages, 21 even and up. I don't even want to say 18. I'm not even sure. I guess 18 and up. But it's still, there's all these little grains of truth that I didn't even we didn't even get to it, but that I found helpful as far as he even gives good legal advice about if you go into business with your friend, just assume that that's when you need to protect yourself the most. And that he gives great tips about extensions, wigs, how to walk in heels, and being upfront when you're dating. He's very much it was surprisingly illuminating.
Right. And the book is called Suck Less, Where There's a Willam, There's a Way, which is such a
so there's
title.
A lot of tips on how to make yourself look like a woman when you're not a woman. But, it was generally it was the same as kind of, I feel with the interview a little bit, where you hear the truth a lot in what he's saying, but he's also a comedian. We didn't really acknowledge that.
He is an improvisational comedian. And he did say when him and Shangela get together, when you tell them to just improv in a scene, you just got to tell them once because they'll just go off. And that was obvious in the movie A Star Is Born. I mean, when they're in the dressing room, it's just none of that was scripted. So I think that if he were on a Saturday Night Live situation, I think he would kill it, to be honest with you.
I think he would kill it too, honestly. I mean, I think that's what most of being a drag queen kind of is on the stage is being able to take things in stride. And there's a whole part of the book that's how to be on stage or how to be, basically have the spotlight on you. And it's, he very much is if you have a microphone and you have hecklers or you have somebody saying something, call it out, but make it a joke. Everybody's supposed to just be here for a good time. So don't let anybody else ruin it. And I think he's very adamant about wanting to help people feel good and give back to the community that he feels such a big part of. And that, I think, is he's using his comedy and his sarcasm for good and not evil.
Right. And what did he say? Evil takes many forms or something. He's very funny.
Yeah.
You know, but he is not everyone's cup of tea. And people that listen to this podcast, you might have been like, what was that? But you know what? I'm glad you heard it, because maybe we all need to challenge. Maybe we need to step outside of our bubbles every now and then and meet somebody who's not just giving you the status quo.
Exactly. It like this isn't just reading a script, isn't just, we've had so many wonderful guests that have been extremely genuine and open and vulnerable. And we're not saying that anybody has had this different kind of agenda push, but it is, I think, something that needs to be heard. Like I think all of our episodes need to be heard, that you can pave your own way and not have to be like, well, it was really hard. And this and that. Like he knew who he was. He went for it. And, he doesn't really care what you have to think about it.
No,
so,
not a little bit, which I think we can all learn a lot from.
That's what I was going to say. I think we could all learn a little bit about like, stop focusing so much on what everybody else thinks about you.
Well, someone said, what other people think about me is none of my business.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's kind of how he lives his life. And he's been very successful. So something he's doing is working. But we can't thank you enough, Willam, for coming on the program today.
Yes, it was wonderful.
And being vulnerable and sharing your experiences with us. And honestly, it was great.
Yeah. Well, do you want to do the question of the day?
Oh, yeah. Who would you get to play you in the movie of your life?
It's funny, as I wrote this question down, I didn't come up with even think of an answer, but maybe I'd say maybe Scarlett Johansson, just because I don't think she ages, and I think that they could do like prosthetics on her so that she could look like a young me, and then she could look, I don't know, maybe that, and she's easy on the eyes. So I just in general would even if everything I did in life, maybe I didn't exactly look that way, I would like everybody to remember them. Me in that light.
Scarlett Johansson. It's hysterical.
How about you?
I would want to say probably, well, a lot of people think that I look like Andrew Rannells from Book of Mormon and Girls, the show Girls.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of people think I look like him. And some people have said I look like
I'm looking this up. Andrew
I could
who?
be Chris Hemsworth's brother, or like the kid from Queer as Folk. People have said Randy, I think his name is, from the original Queer as Folk, that I look like him. But honestly, the young me, I don't know.
Who is it from Girls that you said that they said you look like?
Andrew Rannells.
I'm fascinated because nobody ever tells me that I look, you kind of do, whatever. I just think nobody is ever like, who you look like? Like everybody else I feel like has these doppelganger famous people.
There's only one Laura Patrick.
There's only one Laura Patrick, so try.
It is what it is.
To find. So that's why I need Scarlett Johansson to put on prosthetics to possibly get the look. I really can't even think of one time somebody's like, you look like if ever it is somebody, it's like some random friend they have. It's never a famous person. Do you think that I look like any famous person?
No.
Yeah. All right. Just one. There's only one me. So that must mean something.
First, guys.
Maybe I'm a Willam. Because there's only one
Listen,
Willam.
Where there's a Willam, there's a way.
Where there's a Willam, there's a way. You can find that person.
All right. Well, go check out Willam's website. We'll have all the stuff on social media. Definitely go follow him on Instagram. Yeah. And he's great, you guys, and very funny. And yeah, it was a great day.
Yeah, it was a good day. And it was always wonderful to see you.
You too, honey. Have a great day.
You too. Love you. Bye.